You already know I'm the cosmic in that house. Wake up, wake up. Big game, man. Check this out. We're going to talk about emotional instability, as you can see on the screen. I got this to show you from this website here. So the link is there, and I'll link to it a little later. But I'm going to read through them real quick. I just wanted to follow up on my video yesterday, and to let you know that one of these were very pertinent to me, right? So I was going through emotional issues with my third marriage, right? So this is one of the signs that you know that you have an emotional instability, is that they have a hard time keeping relationships. So that was one of the key points for me, was I wanted to figure out why I was having issues in my relationship at that point. And I became separated with my wife, who's still my wife now, but we were separate for a while due to my emotional instability. But I was unaware of this emotional instability until I started going through that phase of asking myself, why am I having difficulties in my relationship, right? Or why have I had 3 marriages? That's basically what I was asking myself. Like, wow, I've been married 3 times and I'm 47 right now. I know, looking good, right? Yeah. So, I want to read this to you, right? So, because a lot of these, when I started researching online, because that's what I did. I went online and I was like, I want to research, because that was my main concern. Was I was getting older. I ain't got no time to be going out, to the clubs, looking for a chickadee. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have time for that. And I wanted to do other things with my life. I wanted to do like videos. But this was how it started. I was in a situation with my wife, where I just went ham on a simple situation, and I want to read these to you so you guys can kind of figure out if you do have an emotional instability. And reason why I'm saying this, because most of us, from where I'm from, my age, and it could be from other places too, but I'm focused, mostly on where I'm from, because I can only speak about what I know. You know what I'm saying? I can't speak about stuff I don't know, and I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know anything, but I'm learning as I go, and I think it's really important. Again, because I said yesterday, it's helped me dramatically. It's helped me make changes. It's helped me accomplish many things. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing that constantly every day. To build myself to be a better, a better adult. Really. Not just for me, but for I'm trying to change the light back there. I don't know if it's too bright. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it like that. So that's important for me. So as I go, you can only retain what you teach, right, or what you profess to be true to you. If you share with others, bam, it'll become part of your life as you go. Even though it is part of my life now, but it'll be more embedded. The more I practice, and this for me is practice right here. Practicing what I'm talking about. Practice what you preach about, however you want to call it. So let's go to the first one. Love your soul, not your role. You already know. We talk about your emotions, so you can love your soul, so you can control how you think, and understand that you are the main. You're the processor. You're the main chip. You know what I'm saying? You're not to be allowed programs into your main process unless you allow it to. So let's go in. Let's go on. I don't even know if that makes sense, but whatever, Mike. Let's check this out. So I'm gonna make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. Hold on. There you go. I like using this program. I don't know why, but I'll try a different program sometime a little later. I think I should move this over, right? Let me see if I can do that. No, that's as far as we'll go. Can I minimize it? Sort pages. So I click on that. Bam. Alright, there you go. Got rid of that. Cool. Alright, so I'll make it a little bit more bigger. Getting at my video face, whatever clock, right? Okay. So this is how you know that you are emotionally unstable. All right, this is saying they. Again, I got this for this website, but I wanted to get something that was concrete. So that's why I got it. So I'm just gonna click on it so that you guys can check it out. This is where I got this information. But again, most of this stuff applies to me. How I found it out, so I got it from this page called Code, and I just basically put something in there saying, how do you know you're emotionally unstable? So that's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool article, but let's read it from here anyway. So let's read it from here. So it says 9 warning signs someone is an emotionally unstable person. So let me make this bigger too. So it says there is a good analogy about emotions with fire. Fire can be the greatest source of power for humankind, or a force that can scorch everything to the ground if untamed. Emotions can bring us to the greatest heights or to the deepest abyss. And that's true, that's happened to me. It's brought me to the greatest heights, and definitely has brought me to the great deepest abyss. There are emotions that make us feel good and emotions that make us feel bad, but they can all lead to destruction. They can all lead to destruction if they are left unmanaged. So you gotta manage that, no matter what side of the spectrum you feel. So if you're happy, if you on Mount Glory, or if you in Hades, you have to learn how to manage those emotions. Either which way, they belong to you. Okay. Alright, so as long as we are able to express our emotions in a way that doesn't hurt other people, we are on the right track. So as long as we are able to express our emotions in a way that doesn't hurt other people, we are on the right track. So that's what I used to do. That's what I used to do with that. I used to hurt other people, and I didn't want to. I didn't do it on purpose. I wasn't purposefully hurting them. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go out and catch a tantrum, because basically that's what it is, or catch a nutty, like we used to call it, right? Because I want to hurt this person. Nah, it was never that. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to express myself without hurting other people. But when our emotions are out of whack and cause difficulties in our lives, as well as that of other people, it means it's time to have a reality check. What is the root cause for emotional instability? That's a pretty good picture. Daily basis, I used to be like that, right? I used to be this person in one day. I used to go through these emotions in one freaking day. Serene, thoughtful. Maybe this is depressed and I'll be happy. Yeah, all in one day. Horrible, especially for others. I mean, horrible for me, but especially for others who are around me. Emotional instability doesn't occur without some root cause that festers inside an individual. And yesterday we were talking about it. It has to do something that was traumatic as a child, that happened to you. Either you forgot it, most likely you forgot it, or something that would happen to you on a daily basis. But again, it's something that you either forgot, or your subconscious just put it on the lock, because life was going on, and there were things that you needed to protect yourself to survive. Right. So, however, what I've noticed to be the biggest cause for someone being emotionally chaotic is an emotional wound, one that festers inside their heart. And what makes them unstable is not healing this wound. So not healing a wound that you have deep down inside is what's making you unstable. The moment you heal that wound, and it's happened to me, I'm telling you, because it's happened to me. And again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just talking from my experiences. The things I put into play, the discipline that I had to have in order to basically heal myself, right? It's every day. Just today, we received a letter, and I read the letter, but I didn't read the letter the whole way, and I assumed that I went to my wife and I was like, yeah, I made her feel bad about it, basically. And she checked me right there. She's like, yo, hold up, man. Don't come over here talking to me like that, bro. So I was like, all right, my apologies. I apologize. So then as soon as I felt that vibe from her, I checked myself. I apologized to her. She said, cool. And then I said, okay, what did I do, right? And I asked her. She said, no, you just came over a little bit aggressive, trying to say it was my fault because we got that letter. So, it's a work in progress, but you have to be aware of that stuff. You have to be open to it. You can't just block it out. And most of the time, I used to just block that stuff out. you know, because of emotional wounds that I had. So it says they try to hide this wound from the world and run away from it without properly healing it. Such self negligence just makes the emotional wound worse and creates the emotional instability. So they're letting you know right there. Um, this makes people fragile and easily triggered as their wound is sensitive, and even the most harmless events can be a trigger for the emotional explosion. That's pretty much nail on the hitting a nail on the head. Um, so people having this disorder could suffer from intense emotions that could last for hours or even days. Hours for me, sometimes days, but most of the time I wasn't angry. Like I wouldn't be angry. It'll come and go. Like yeah, I could be pissed for like hours. You know, and what's so funny that I would be pissed about a situation that I would never handle. I wouldn't handle it. I'd just be pissed off about it. I lock somebody out, won't talk to anybody. But I wouldn't deal with the issue that caused me to feel that way. In a in a way where I wouldn't hurt anybody, especially myself. Identifying this disorder is a big help for someone who suffers from it so that they can receive the support, understanding, and the means of healing they need. Did you know a pet could make you feel better? Learn more here. It's so funny. I read that right, and a while ago I was going through these issues again with my wife, right, and I bought two birds. That was a huge mistake. But sometimes people, you can be responsible. But if you're an impulsive individual like I used to be, right, then buying two birds is not gonna help. It's just gonna give you more trouble. So I think I had them for like a day, literally a day. I went and bought two budgies. They're called budgies, like these little birds that make all kind. They were cool. They were keeping me occupied. But man, cleaning the cage and cleaning the shit, not good. So I took them back the next day. They said you could return them. I felt bad, right? But I took them back because I was just being impulsive. I was just trying to cover something up with something external to make me, temporarily happy. But I realized I was like, no, that's not, it's too much responsibility, and I'm going through this. I'm not going to be able to be helpful to these birds, so I took them back. But yeah, that's definitely something that you need. You need support and understanding. You need to be able to trust somebody. You know what I'm saying? And that's hard to do. That's hard to do, to trust somebody. All right, so these are the 9 signs someone is emotionally unstable. So there are other sites that I was looking at that have like different types of signs, especially when it comes to relationships. But this is the one that I chose that was a little bit more relevant towards me. So if you dig it, cool. If you don't dig it, just put signs of emotional instability, man, in Google or whatever you use as a search engine. Which, yeah, I know you just use Google, but if you use like DuckDuckGo or something crazy like that, or something that's not Google, or Bing, I think I use Bing, or I use this one right here. I have Chrome here, but I like using this one, which is what's this one? This is the Edge. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go read it. So this is that dude from Batman, right? I don't know his name, but whatever. This is pretty cool. And again, look at the facial expressions, right? This can mean anything. Look at the stare. Look at the emptiness. Look at the rage and the contempt, and then this one is just so sad. Okay, so people with emotional instability, that's what this is about. They are prone to impulsive actions. I can attest to that. I was one of those people. Like I said, I bought two budgies. Didn't really need them, but I was going through some shit and I had to do it. But here we go. A person who is emotionally unstable acts out of impulse. And that's general for the people I know. Act out of impulse all the time. Don't ask no questions. Don't sit back and think about it. Don't relate to someone else. Don't look. They don't want to call somebody and talk about it. They just jump right to conclusions and they're impulsive. Just out of control. They don't have the capacity to foresee the results of their actions, even when it could mean harming themselves or others. There's no time and space for that in a person who's impulsive, right? Their impulsive actions are often geared towards danger, such as driving their cars extremely fast, done it, or driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Impulsive spending, and gambling can also be their vice. All right, so gambling, don't do gambling. When I was younger, I did the alcohol and the drugs, yeah, um, but never under the influence, right? But yeah, I drove fast. I've been known to drive fast, with other people in the car when I was upset, definitely. You know, spending, definitely, man. Listen, I go to the store, I buy me a Beantown hat, a shirt, some sneakers. I think I got like, man, listen, I think I got like 15 pairs of sneakers. That's because I stopped. Other than that, I've had hundreds of sneakers before. On impulsivity too, just because either I'm extreme. It usually was when I was extremely happy. Right, I'm extremely happy. Everything is paid. You know what I'm saying? So I go to the mall, buy me some shoes, shirt. Don't even need it. Um, but anyway, so let's continue. Because they have little control over themselves, delayed gratification is never their forte. They do all these things to feel good, even for only a short period of time. Most definite. That's absolutely true. And today I was reading this book. I'm still reading it, trying to get through it. I'm not really. Um, I'm reading it, man. I get sleepy really easy. I'm a little older, but so in there he was talking about how you have to delay gratification, which is discipline. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I've been doing that, and I've been having some great results. But it's not really easy. But with consistency and belief in yourself and loving your soul, not your role, it can be done. All right. So here's two. They find it difficult to manage their anger. They have anger issues that range from shouting and screaming to slamming the door. At times, they could be violent, but other times, they don't harm physically the person they are angry with. So you don't physically harm the person you're angry with. You just, you know, throw stuff, punch stuff, yell. True that. That's a fact. They could snap back and forth between being lively and being fiery. Fiery? Fiery? I don't know. In short, they are unable to express their anger in a healthy manner. Absolutely true. Three, they have a hard time keeping relationships. Bing, 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 bing. That was for me. This one was the one that set me off. Right. This one was the one that set me on that journey. Because it was actual fact. It's getting dark outside. I'm gonna turn on my little desk light. There you go. I got my window open, so it's getting a little dark. That's how they say in the bean. It's dark outside. It's dark. Alright. So anyway, let me do what I did yesterday. I did this. Put it up like that. Give me a second, guys. Now it means getting dark outside. So there we go. That looks a little better. Okay, so they have a hard time keeping relationships because they are emotionally unstable. These people could not maintain a healthy relationship either. Their feelings to their partners range from being passionate to feeling bad about them. They initiate breakups out of petty arguments, absolutely true, all the time, which they regret after a few days and ask for reconciliation. Once again, my last two marriages, I didn't ask for reconciliation, right? I meant that. But with this one, right, I love this woman, man, because she's the one that's helping me with and recognize and check me a lot of time. A lot of people that I was involved with wouldn't check me because they were walking on eggshells. That's also a situation that we're going to talk about. When you have people around you who love you, but they're walking on wet eggshells and they still continue to let you do the things you do because they're not going to know how you're going to react. But they don't love you enough to go through that, right? They're just like, they love you, but they don't want to be around you because they know that you crazy, you be wilding out, right? But my wife made that sacrifice many times, more than once. Um, but anyway, so they bring toxicity to the relationships where they could lash out at their significant others any moment. Absolutely true. Thus, keeping a healthy relationship is hard for them to do. I can agree with that. They have extreme reactions. So remember, I told you in the video prior to this, I lived in an extreme environment. It was extremely angry or extremely happy. There was no in between. There was no compromise. You step on my shoes, it's a wrap, right? We know that. Okay, so people who are emotionally unstable usually have extreme reactions to situations. There's some videos. I don't know if you guys watch World Star, but man, look, it's crazy, man. I wanna be able to like show those videos and show you the kind of emotional instability that I'm talking about, the extremes. Okay, so it says they don't care whether their emotions are real or perceived. Absolutely true. As long as they feel they have been wronged, they are more prone to react immediately instead of finding the truth behind the issue. We talked about that earlier when jumping to conclusions and all that shit. Um, they are more likely to react negatively when they perceive that they are about to experience abandonment. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. There is no positive reaction. There is no like, all right, let's talk. There's none of that. It's extreme. It's extreme when you have emotional instability. For me, anyway. You know, other folks can react differently. But you have a chance to go on the internet and figure that out because that's how I did it. I looked at this list that I found on borderline personality disorder. Woo! So I'm gonna pull that up in a while. Maybe later on, a couple of videos later. But that put me straight. I was like, yeah, that's just crazy. But I didn't understand anything about it. I'm not saying crazy, to be dismissive of conditions. I'm just saying that as an action or whatever. They often make lies instead of telling the truth. White lies going through my mind. Is it white lines? That's not something like. Anyway, yeah. So this is absolutely true. Emotionally unstable people can't see reality clearly. They often act out of their emotions and not out of good reasoning. So you unstable. You're gonna wild out. You're not gonna think about reality. Is not even a question. You living in your own delusion, basically. They perceive things that aren't there, which push them to the brink of lying just to get what they want. They lie constantly that you no longer know if they ever told the truth. Absolutely, pathological liar to the T's. But I never really had that issue because I just really wouldn't talk. I really wouldn't say much. I didn't really lie about much. People would never even want to ask me, right? Because I was so volatile, right? People didn't want to ask me, is that the truth? So I didn't really lie much because I didn't have to. But definitely, I can see that happening. I can see, you know, um, selfishness coming into play where I've done like, but you're asking me and I'm going out to go do something and I don't want her to know what it is that I'm doing, so I'm just like, yeah, whatever, I don't have to tell you what I'm doing, I'm a grown man, blah blah blah, all that nonsense. But yeah, I can see that. You have difficulty sleeping at night. I got difficulty sleeping at night. I still have it a little bit, not as much as before, but yeah, it happens. Awful. It's awful because you're at work next day, you're tired, but like I said, right now everything's under control. I got a regimen. I'm doing things that are put me in that space of being able to recognize and gear and steer myself the way that it needs to be in order to 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 be stable when I'm dealing with situations. Emotionally unstable people have higher stress levels. The minds are their minds are so overactive they find it difficult to sleep. They keep on rerunning the events that have occurred during the day. The more they have sleepless nights, the more negative they feel the next day. This situation just happened to me last week. Right, I usually don't dwell on things, but because I'm a bit more in tune, right, with the way I'm thinking, and when I get that little, that little impulse, like the anxiety in the middle of my chest, right. It happened to me a couple of days ago, and I talked about it. I said, hey, you know what? I've been thinking about this situation since it occurred, but it wasn't really a big situation. It was something that was really small. But since I talked about it, I let it out. I dealt with it. I was able to put it in its proper perspective, and I went to sleep good that night. But it was going through all day. Like if I was at an emotional unstable state, it would have ruined my whole day. It would have just went fermented. I would have never slept. I wouldn't have slept. I would have woke up the next day with it still on my mind. Not worried, but just carrying it with me. But I nipped it in the bud by talking about it with my wife, and she helped me with that. So yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and you feel more negative the next day. So they keep rerunning the events that have occurred during the day. The more they have sleepless nights, the more negative they feel the next day. Absolutely true. All right, let's go on to number 7. They have trouble making decisions. What? That's in there too. People with unstable emotions have unstable minds as well. Making decisions is hard for them to do because they could not differentiate right from wrong. Whoa, cognitive dissonance or emotional dissonance, right? You can't differentiate. You can't tell the difference. I think I'm going to find that definition. I think if anybody knows what if I'm using that right, I think I am. I know one of them has to do with with government, but um, yeah, listen to that. Listen to that. Yeah, you don't know the difference. You can't tell the difference from right from wrong, depending on the situation. Right? It's not all on everything, but that's a big one. Even when they receive perfect advice from other people, they prefer to follow their upside down way of thinking. Upside down. That's that's deep. But yeah, perfect advice. You don't ever get perfect advice, so yeah, don't listen to that. You're never gonna get perfect. You're gonna get somebody's view or somebody's opinion of perfect advice, but it's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be upside down. I'm pretty sure, but it's not gonna be perfect. Additionally, they have a hard time figuring out what they want. Thus, they find themselves in trouble when they are required to make decisions. Most true. Most true. All right, so we're gonna go to number 8. They are melodramatic, drama queens. They have difficulty controlling their reactions that emotionally unstable people resort to being overly melodramatic. True, definitely. That, man, I used to go overboard with that. They can be labeled as drama queen or king, when in reality they don't know how to act the way they really want to. So, don't dismiss that, man. People with emotional instability, man, are going through a lot of stuff on a daily basis, 24 hours a day. And we are going through stuff. We're all going through stuff. But, to excuse me, to go through that is difficult. And not be aware of it. So they're not aware of it, right? And that's what makes it even worse. Other people around them are more aware of it, and they make them more vulnerable, right? Or that person's more vulnerable because they don't even know. Like I used to tell my wife, man, you see me doing these things, and you never told my ex wife, and you never told me, you never, well, I didn't figure, stuff like that, but you can't rely. But that's the person, that's that emotional person talking, but yeah, it's hard for them to go through that too because it's difficult, it's harmful to them, and they don't want any more harm to come out of it because they're being trying to be rational with you, and you don't know how to. All right. Last but not least, they lack foresight. True. True. And I'm telling you, all of this stuff that's on here that you see, most of it, let me see. Except for the driving drunk stuff, all that stuff, the drinking and drugging and all that craziness as an adult, changing, my frame of mind, all of this stuff was mostly true for me. Right? And I worked all of this stuff out, and I'm still working all this stuff out. But the fact is, that I'm being aware of what I'm changing and why I'm changing, and why I'm not saying changing. I'm saying why am I dealing with it head on? Because I need to, because I want to, because I want my life to be valued by myself, not by others, but by me. Because if I value myself, then others will value me, right? That's why. Um, so number 9, they lack foresight because they have difficulty seeing things in the present moment and the reality as it is. They find it hard to plan for the future, and I'm doing that. I'm planning for the future. I used to do that, right? I've done it. I got my little books that I have. I carry around. I write stuff in it. I used to have my little happy faces and my sad faces when I was in therapy. So see that stuff, right? So I have my planner. But now I use my phone. I put all my plans in my phone. You know, um, but that was definitely something that I went through a period of time where I didn't plan for the future. Um, but for the most part, I have. But right now I'm doing it, and it's coming out great. Not saying that you know outside things aren't going to happen because you with every battle there's a lot. With every war there's a battle that's lost, right? But you just gotta stay in the war. You gotta stay in the present. They tend to ignore important dates or events. Ignore. I don't know how I could say ignore. I think I forget. I forget. Oh yeah, definitely. But ignoring now, I don't think I would say for me anyway. But this is some of that stuff. Um, by the way, I changed the where my camera was. I had it on my right hand side or your left, whatever. Yeah, your left. But I put it on top of the monitor just to see what it looks like. I'll drop this video. They just lack the foresight. Okay, so forget events, which makes them appear uncaring. In reality, they just lack the foresight, and a lot of people don't know this. Right? A lot of people just jump to. A lot of other people just say, "Oh, he doesn't care." She doesn't care. They don't care. Whatever the case may be, but they just don't have that ability. They don't have the capability to do that. But like again, but people don't know. People just don't know. They just sweep it under the rug, or they just, this is what they say. And worse, they could not plan for their future nor create goals as they are more distracted by their emotions. So the emotions distract you. If you don't know how to control them, they distract you. And that if they distract you, your whole life is topsy turvy. Like they said, where did they say that in reverse? I thought I like that because it's absolutely true. Upside down world or whatever, and that's literally what it is, right? But anyway, that's what I want to drop today. Videos are going to be coming like fire. I got all these things that I want to talk about, but this is I wanted to give you guys this. I'll put the link of this web page in the you know so like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to get some notifications of my videos that are coming up. And again, we deal on emotions, so you can love your soul and not your role. Love your soul, not love who you are as your soul, because my whole goal is to get you to understand that you will not be here forever. You will leave this realm, this plane, right? We're going to talk about all that stuff. But your soul is what you are when you leave with your soul. If you don't love your soul, then whatever entities that are out there will consume you again, or you will have to be resurrected because you didn't live in the correct karma, right? But that's a whole nother spiritual level, right? But love your soul, not your role, begins with understanding your emotions, loving how to control them. You gotta love that, right, about you as you grow. All right, so I'm the Cosmic, and